Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Reading Room Ruffians, our podcast for all things library. That means reviews of books, talk of upcoming programs, library stories, guest speakers, and generally things that happen in our library. We are a group of librarians from Jackson County, West Virginia. Today, we are going to discuss some of our favorite books that we've been reading, recommendations for you guys, and I think maybe just a little bit of general bookishness. Carla, do you want to start us off?
I can start. This April is National Poetry Month, so I chose my favorite poetry book, which is hysterical. It's called I Could Pee on This, and Other Poems by Cats by Francisco Macalanio, something like that. I can't pronounce the last name. Sorry. Anyway, and I thought I would share the first poem, which is I Could Pee on This. So if you have cats, or you've been around cats, this will make perfect sense. If you haven't, sorry, you should get cats. Her new sweater doesn't smell of me. I could pee on that. She's gone out for the day and left her laptop on the counter. I could pee on that. Her new boyfriend just pushed my head away. I could pee on him. She's ignoring me, ignoring her. I could pee everywhere. She's making up for it by putting me on her lap. I could pee on this. I could pee on this.
Such like a cat.
That's miserable.
I know, there's like, oh, it's hilarious. I'm going to read one more and I'll let you guys talk. I'm sorry. But this is, I could lick your nose. I lick your nose. I lick your nose again. I drag my claws down your eyelids. Oh, you're up. Feed me. All the poems in here are so cat-like behavior. It is hysterical.
It's a very cute book. I love it.
So that's my favorite.
Yeah. Cats are so like that, too.
Yeah.
This is a cat story. I know we were doing books, but we're going to do a cat story real fast. I had a cat when I was growing up called Saphira, and she decided she didn't like me anymore, and she loved my mom. And I wanted to love this cat so much because she had like 24 toes or something like that. She was like polydactyl, right? But she had like a freaking ton of toes, right? So she was like great, and she was like this black tabby. She was beautiful. Well, I don't know what it is with my mother's cats, but they hated me and my brother. Every single one of them hated me and my brother. And she got mad at me one day and got up on my bed and peed on my bed with me sitting on there.
Was she looking at you?
Yes! Yeah. The freaking audacity of this cat!
That sounds about right.
I know you did. I was so mad. Oh my gosh.
She was kind of an awful cat.
No, P-Cat was the one.
P-Cat was the worst.
P-Cat was way worse. Actually, yeah, no, that's a good point.
I love P-Cat too. Her name was Sweet Pea. We just called her P-Cat.
Yeah. Hope was bad too.
Oh, Hope was like a god of cats.
He ate our birds.
She loved these cats
point
more
this
than
out.
us.
And she loves himself, but he ate our birds.
I
There
think
was a feather sticking out of his mouth. He ate our birds.
He was
Wrong
not
place, wrong time.
framed.
Just
He
picked
ate
up some
them.
feathers on the fly. Ooh, what a pun. Accidental puns. Yes.
Okay.
The worst cats. I guess I can talk about one of my books that I've read recently. Okay, so I recently read The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. This book takes place like in the 1800s in Paris and in London. And essentially this girl goes to Paris to train underneath a medium, I guess what you would call her. She does seances for people who've been murdered to figure out how they were murdered. So she essentially sees the memories that they had and can tell you who murdered them or how they died or whatever. And the main girl, her sister had been murdered. So she went to train underneath her so she could do a seance later to figure out how her sister was murdered. The London Seance Society is a society ran by men. Women are not allowed in this building. They're not allowed to, right? They're not allowed to go to any of the lectures for them, anything like that. And their president was also murdered. So, like, one of the guys invites the medium. I think her name's Vaudeline. I can't remember. That could be really wrong. I make up names. But he invites her to come to London to do a seance to figure out how he was murdered. And the medium was friends with the president of the society. So she was like, yeah, I'll come and do it. Long story short, I thought I knew what was going to happen throughout this book. Like, I was like, oh, I know who killed him. I know why they died. all that junk. Last, I don't know, 50 pages or so, you get new information. There's a twist, and what really happened, I did not guess happened, which is always good. And then there's sweet, petty vengeance at the end. So it's great. It's such a good book. Like, I was like, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. And then I got to the end and I was like, holy crap, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I strongly suggest people reading that one.
I'm trying to think of some book. I'm trying to find some books. Really, the only one that sticks out to me right now is I finally finished The Well of Ascension. She knows. I picked this book up. It's the second in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. And I picked it up in December and I finished it in March. So what happened was I think this is really just a me thing. I don't I gave it 4 stars anyway, but whenever I got close to the middle of it, I got so angry at what was happening with the main character. I felt like this is not how she would have handled anything that was happening, and I got so angry that I just returned it. My mom laughed at me, Ariel laughed at me, and our group chat laughed at me, and it made me angry every time it came back to me to read it. So I just kept putting it off. Finally finished it. And things got handled, but I was still upset about it.
So you had like a personal vendetta.
It really became
book.
Personal. I have a lot of words for Brandon Sanderson. Just for that like middle chunk there, I'd like to have some words.
She did though. Literally every time she's like, guess what came back? She's like, I can't read this right now.
It would always come back at like the most inopportune times too. Like I was either in the middle of a book or I just gotten like 2 other books. And I was like, you would come back at this point. It's silly, but definitely.
It was very entertaining for us though.
Yeah.
To the listeners, it's a fantastic trilogy and a fantastic book. Don't listen to her. It's amazing.
No, I did give it 4 stars. It was just a really personal bump in the road there for me.
Yeah, I read the first one. The first one's really good. I haven't read the second one yet because I have other books I want to read first. But it is on the list of things to finish this year. I want to finish the trilogy.
I would say there's the main trilogy and then there's books that happen afterwards that are in a completely different time era. So the trilogy is the main one you need to read. The other books aren't as good.
Yeah, I did give this one 4 stars. I took it really personally. I think just because for me, she was not acting how I thought she would. It was like she was obviously being duped, and it made me so angry that such a street smart girl was just like letting it happen. I mean, she didn't notice. I don't know. It really upset me. You know, whatever. I take things personally sometimes. But yeah, that was mine. And then Zach, you can carry on.
Sure. So I think the one I'm going to highlight this time is Legends and Lattes.
Oh man, I want to read that one.
This is a new one that came out like last year. I guess it's a year old now, so whatever. It's new to me, but it's been going around all the different booky places for a while, and it's just a nice little cozy book about you've got an adventurer who is an orc, so a big, strong, scary looking person, and she goes back to a town after adventuring because she's all tired of adventuring, and she wants to open up a coffee shop. And she meets a bunch of nice people along the way. There's like a little bit of a romance element. There's some little bits of, I guess, strife in the whole thing, but for the most part it's just a very cozy, fast read. You can read it in like an evening or 2, and it just makes you feel really good. There's a bunch of really nice little characters and stuff like that, and I wouldn't say it's like it doesn't feel super realistic, but it also doesn't matter because it's just a fun little book. I really enjoyed it, and I think he's got another book coming out sometime this year, which is also a cozy little read, so I had to check that one out too. It's Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldtree. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of this one already, and a lot of you have read it, but it is a fun little read.
It sounds familiar.
I've seen it in a lot of my book groups and stuff like that, and Michael actually almost bought it for me the other day. He's like, I didn't know if you'd want that though, because I know that you don't like romancy type books, which is true. I don't like them, but
I like a good romance every now and then.
But I was like, no, if you see that again, get it, because I want to read that one. And he was like, okay.
The romance is very minimal in this one. Like, it's there, but like nothing happens with it for a significant portion of the book. And when stuff finally does happen, it's not like, it doesn't get intense. It's just kind of sweet. You're just like, aww.
See, if I'm going to read a romance book, that's what I want, because I don't want romance or smut to take over a book and there not be a storyline.
I don't think I've read very many romances where there's not a good storyline.
Well, you read Nora Roberts.
I do.
I have never read Nora Roberts, so... Now, yes, can we talk about books we do not recommend at the end of this?
Oh, yeah, we have to, because, whew.
All right, do we want to talk about any other books that we really like?
Do we want to mention the one that we're going to read next time?
Oh, yeah.
Next time we're all going to read the book Scythe by Neil Shusterman and discuss it as our highlighted book. So if anyone out there wants to read it along with us, that would be great. It is, when this was described to me by Ariel, it sounded horrible.
Oh, it's so good.
I thought, there is no way I'm reading that. That's like ridiculous. And it is a phenomenal book.
Amazing.
Phenomenal.
It's so good.
See,
I have good choices in books.
You
I just can't always describe them well.
Yeah, it was like, and they kill this thing, they have to kill people, and it's all this. I was like, I'm not reading that. But it is really, really good. That's a minimal part of the book.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Any other books you want to highlight?
I actually, there's one that I read this past week that I thought was really good. It's called The House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. Now, T. Kingfisher is an author I just found within the last year and a half, something like that. She writes, or he writes.
It's a girl. Also, is this their new book?
I think so, yeah. I think it just came out.
Okay.
Published March 28th. Anyways, so it's like, she writes creepy books. Not all of them are super creepy, but she does creepy stuff very well. The first book I ever read with her was called The Hollow Places, and I have suggested it to so many people, and some people in present company refuse to read it.
It's me.
But this one, it's about a girl who has to go stay with her mom for a while. She's an entomologist, but she does entomology with like archaeologists and stuff like that. So she like figures out, what kind of food these people were eating and stuff like that by the bugs that they find in the dig site, which is cool. I did not know that was a thing. Anyway, she's like bug crazy. She goes into the Latin names of every bug she sees. She's like, oh, the 7-spotted ladybug or whatever, and then its scientific name. And then she's like she's like bug crazy. But apparently she's always been like that since she was a child. But anyway, so she has to go stay with her mom because the dig site got shut down because human remains were found that were not old. Because it's an archaeology dig. So, but they were not old. They were fresh human remains. And she can tell that there's something wrong with her mom. Her mom has lost a lot of weight. And she's just acting weird. Like, she likes bright colors, and she is very, woke in the sense of, social stuff. Mm-hmm. So, when she comes to stay with her mom, and her mom's painted everything like a beige color, and she put up the Confederate wedding picture on her wall, she's like, what is going on? What is wrong?
Oh, I definitely thought you were going, woke is a disease here.
No. Like she's very anti-racist.
Okay, she was previously, but now she is not.
Essentially, is what, and she's like, what is going on? Why is she acting like this? So she tries to do some investigating on her own. She doesn't think it's anything weird. She thinks maybe her mom's got dementia, or maybe she's going through depression. She's trying to find all these different things. Now, there's some really funny parts in the book. Like, she wakes up at one point to see somebody coming through the door, and she threatens to shoot them, even though she doesn't have a gun, or anything like that. And it was her mom's gardener. And she's like, this is, so-and-so, the gardener. And she's like, oh. She's like, well, I'm going to go get changed because I'm not wearing any pants. She just says things that come, there's no filter between her mouth and her brain. So, but at the end of the book, the gardener, her mom, and the neighbor who rehabilitates vultures. And I know that seems really random, but like vultures are a big thing throughout this book. End up in like a different dimension where there's these like grub children who eat people, and then how they talk to each other is like a kitten's meow. It's like meow, meow. And like when I was listening to this book, I was at the library and I was working on stuff, and Mallory was at the library working on stuff, and she made this noise that sounded almost exactly like that. And I like looked over at her real fast, and I know she didn't see me because she was working on making a car, but I was like, you have no idea how much you just freaked me out. But it's really good. I know I'm really bad at describing books, but this is a really good book. She does creep really well. Like, it's kind of like weird and off through the entire book until the end, and then it gets progressively more creepy, and like you're like, what the heck, are they going to survive, you know? And I'm not going to say whether they do or not.
Rude.
They all die, all of them.
You know, I've read books like that.
Yep.
So
That sounds like a wild book.
This is the reason I don't read creepy books, because they stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
See, the hollow places, there's this part where this guy's in the water, and he has all these like tendrils out from him, and then she realizes while she's talking to him, those tendrils are his organs.
Oh.
And he can like taste you with them.
No.
Oh, that's fine. No.
No, I'm out.
That sounds delicious.
Oh my God.
This is why I like her so much, because she does like these creepy things. Like she wrote What Moves the Dead, which is based off of a Poe poem, I think.
Yeah.
What's that called, Zach? You read it.
The poem? I don't remember. I can look it up real quick.
I don't either.
But it's a good book.
That one definitely fits in with like The Last of Us kind of thing, where there's fungus taking over people.
I think I'll just stick to romance.
I like a good creepy book. I enjoy them.
Talking trees and, you know, intelligent fungus and stuff like that.
The Poe story is The Fall of the House of Usher, which I read a very long time ago, but I did not remember it well enough to know what was going to happen in this book. I mean, the book is a little predictable, but it's a fun little read.
It's really good. She does it really well. Okay, any other book?
I think I will talk about the duology I just finished. So I started Skin of the Sea in March, at the beginning of March, and that is about a mermaid off the coast of Africa. And it's actually super amazing. There is African lore, mythology, and it takes place during the time when slavery was happening. And so essentially it is said that mermaids, which in the book they are called Mamiwatas, they were created by Yamoja, who is a goddess of the sea. And she essentially decides whenever she gets control of the sea that she is going to collect any souls that die in the water that belong to Africa. And she returns them so that they can be properly sent back to where they're supposed to go. And as per usual, I mean, it's kind of like a Little Mermaid story. The mermaids can turn into humans, go onto land, and perform the rituals to send the souls back to up above, I guess. And at one point, she sees a huge shipwreck. And instead of just waiting for a boy to die, she decides to save him, which is like a big no-no. And it just kind of goes from there. And the second book, I finished it the first day of April. So I read them pretty close together, which is not typically my thing. Although I will say this year I've been doing a lot more of that than I normally do.
It's peer pressure.
Yeah, I blame Ariel. But those books are absolutely amazing. Learning a lot of the history and the mythology from Africa. And it's not just, it's a lot of different places from Africa that you hear about. The world building is fantastic. And there are villains, but even the villains they're good characters, even if you don't like them, if that makes sense. They're absolutely amazing.
I started listening to that one and it's good, but then I had homework get in the way, so
I bought them. I bought the copies of the books. And I haven't read them at all because they haven't came in yet.
We have them here. You could have just checked them out.
I want to have them. If I like a book, I listen to a lot of audiobooks and I read ebooks and then I read physical books. And if I really like that book, I want a physical copy of it. I don't care that I've already read it.
Yeah.
I just want it to be like, oh yeah, I've read this book. It's really good.
No, I 100% agree. I've got 100 and something books on Audible and I want all of them physical copies.
See, it's really hard. Like, I keep on, like, pointing out books. I'm like, if you need to find me something to get, I was like, you can get me these books. And then my husband's like, didn't you already read these books? And I'm like, well, yeah,
It's
but
like,
I
you
want copies
don't
of them.
understand. You don't understand. I need those books.
I need them.
I get that because I'm like that too. But I thought maybe you could check it out and read it and make sure you liked it.
Nah, I believe Mallory's opinion of them. I'm sure I'll love them. There's not very many books I've read that Mallory suggested that I didn't like.
Usually I do pretty okay, but there are sometimes where I think I'm going to really like it. So I suggest it before I really get into it. and then I'm like, too late, you're reading it.
Okay. I think this time I'm going to... So I was torn between two different sets of books. I'm going to just mention the other one, but I don't want to go into it too much. It's called... I just finished this recently. It's called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I started this book about 6 or 7 years ago, finally finished it. So maybe I waited a little bit longer than Mallory did. It's just it's a difficult book to read. It's got a lot of philosophy and stuff in there. I'd say the first 2/3 of the book are excellent, and the ending chunk is like kind of eh. But a lot of philosophy about motorcycles. I think it just goes too much into the non-motorcycle related philosophy. But it's a strange book. I really liked it, though. Now, the ones I actually want to talk about today, though, are called the Threshold series. This is a set of, like, there's 4 books right now. They're all written by Peter Clines, and they're only very loosely related. But they all take place in sort of the same universe/multiverse type thing. And the basic premise is that in each of the books, you have normal people, either scientists, or I think in 14, which is the book I would suggest starting with. Start with the book 14. It's a little tricky to search, but not too bad. That in that book, you just got some people who live in a house an apartment building, and one of the floors or one of the rooms in the apartment building is off limits. Nobody opens that door. You should never open that door. So somebody moves in, they're told never to open that door, and then a bunch of weird stuff starts happening. Right? You got these weird characters who start coming in. You get these weird little bugs that start showing up that are bright green. They're cockroaches, right? And there's a lot of this stuff, a lot of these signs that something weird is happening occur in all of the books. So once you've read one of them, you start noticing in the other books the same sorts of things happening. You're like, oh man, it's about to go down right now. But it's just a very interesting book series. It gives me like Cthulhu vibes. There are all of these different like tentacle monster type things that show up sometimes. It's just a very strange book series. I don't even know if I'd call it a series. Collection of books that are set in the same universe and have some characters that cross over. But very good set of books. It's
it almost sounds Cthulhu-like.
It is very Cthulhu-like. It definitely is. It's got this like otherworldly vibe where there's something outside of us or outside of our world that's trying to get in. That's always what it ends up feeling
I wrote it down
like.
on my hand. They were looking at me because while you were talking, I wrote Threshold on my hand. And I was like, it's what he's talking about. Because that sounds like something I'd want to read. But I have a book pulled up on my Goodreads already, and I don't want to lose it.
That's fair. No, this is, let's see here. They're not long books, but they're not short. They're about 400 pages-ish. 14's the best one to start with. I think the best one overall, though, is probably Terminus. That's his most recent one. But 14 is excellent, and it introduces you to a lot of the characters, and some of them do recur in the other books. But I don't want to give too much away because it is sort of nice to feel the mystery unfold as you're reading each of these books. Peter Clines, though, is the author.
Did you have another book you wanted to talk about?
No. I have a question I want to pose for you guys to think about for later. Has there ever been a book that has literally changed the way you look at the world? Anyway, you don't have to answer right now.
I was going to say, not that I can think of off the top of my head, but...
Yeah, that's
good.
So think about it.
Okay, so since are going to do this, like, highlighting books that are awful, I'm going to put out one that we read for the book club, and I've mentioned it previously on this podcast, and that is Neon Gods. What a waste of my time.
Yeah, I agree. That one was not very good.
Miserable. It's a retelling of the Hades Persephone story, and it's set in modern day for no reason, and I hate all of the characters in it, aside from maybe, like, Hermes is fine, and Dionysus, because I relate to Dionysus. There's just so much smut in this book, and it's awful, and every scene doesn't make any sense to me, and I felt dirty reading it, and it was just a bad book. Don't read it.
No,
2
really,
stars.
he's right, though.
Yeah.
There's a ton of smut in it.
It's not even
And
that good.
they repeat certain phrases or words so many
yeah.
times. I'm like, can we just stop?
No.
Just stop. I don't like this.
Yeah.
It was like cringeworthy.
It really was.
Like, I like a good, well-written romance
But
type
that
story.
was,
This
like-
is not that.
Who's
This
the
is
author?
just
Kate Roberts? Is that it?
Katie, I think it's Katie
Yeah.
Roberts.
Katie
Roberts. Yeah. This is just a book that is, it's just so people can, like, you know, be kind of dirty in public, I guess. I don't know.
Honestly, like, I've read A Touch of Darkness, which is another retelling. I liked that one better. But if we're going to be honest, my favorite of all time ever, Hades and Persephone, is Lore Olympus. And I'm not sorry about it. It's a comic on Webtoon, which is an app you can get for free. And I am obsessed with it. I love it so much. The artwork is gorgeous.
Well, I have a book to suggest that Zach suggested to me.
Oh.
And there are people in those book groups we're in that love this book. I think it's a waste of time. I don't know why it was wrote. I don't see the point. And I think it's stupid.
Oh,
It's called Piranesi, I think is how you pronounce it. By
Piranesi.
Susanna Clark.
I was going to
It's Piranesi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
well,
a
it looks
very
like
good
piranha,
book.
So that's what I went with. It's stupid. It makes there's like no point in it being wrote. There is like no good ending with it. It just kind of ends. Like through the whole point, you're like, okay, where is this going? And it goes nowhere. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And Zach's all like, oh, it's good world building. No, it's dumb. And I don't know why people like it.
If you want a classic sort of, I don't know, story or whatever with a beginning, middle, and end, don't go to that book because it's not there. I liked it because of the world. I thought it was interesting, and I like to talk about how the world works.
There's a dude. He doesn't remember how he got to this world, doesn't really remember what's going on. There's another guy that he sometimes talks with, but he doesn't actually know this dude's name, who gives him supplies every now and then. And he just goes around this world looking at these random statues, talking to skeletons, trying to like just survive. That's all he's doing. He doesn't do anything. It's so dumb. I was so disappointed with this book.
Sounds a little bit like The Hike I read. I can't remember the author's name. It's been a while. He starts off on this journey, and it's just craziness, complete craziness. But it does have a good ending.
Well, see, this
one, it has a redeemable ending.
This has a crap ending. I hate it.
The ending is a little sad.
I don't give out less than 3 stars on books because I think, if somebody's taking the time to write a book, you automatically get 3 stars. Because, like, good for you for taking the time for that. This got 3 stars. It almost got 2. Because I was like, this is a waste of paper.
Oh, that's that 40 Days I read recently, which I can't even remember the author's name. I've just blocked it from my head, I guess.
I'll look it up.
I love apocalyptic books and like utopian type books. And I was so excited for this one because it had like all this stuff wrapped up in it. And the people that were in it were raised by an extreme prepper father. Okay. They should have known what to do when they left, when the disaster started. They didn't even take a road map.
Oh, man.
They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know how to get there. And they made the mistake for me of going through West Virginia. So I knew the places they were supposed to be at, and it made no sense because you don't take Route 50 south to Georgia because it goes east-west. And they had stopped in Parkersburg and picked up a flyer on the Mothman because that's where the Mothman was from, which just made me livid.
Because that's not
Because
right
that's
either.
not right either. Yeah, I mean,
It's Point Pleasant, guys.
Mothman's
Yeah.
from. Yeah,
That's what she's
but
mad
it
about.
started with which is like literally. I live between these two places, and it's like they got the P and the river right. I mean, It's like they both started with a P, and it's all along the Ohio River. That's as close as it came. I hated the book from the beginning to the end. It never got any better. I mean, it was like they did one stupid thing after another, and I'm sorry if you were raised by a prepper family, you wouldn't have made these stupid mistakes.
No way.
I will say, if you are writing a book, research the area that you're writing about, because we have
Yes.
a friend in our book club who was livid at this book because they talked about Thurman, West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
And how they described it is not anything like what that place is like. And she was livid. So if you're writing a book, research the area you're writing about.
Travel routes. Yeah.
The Route 50 just blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. I'm like, you didn't even look at a roadmap when you wrote this, because
No, of course not. Well, they didn't know that the Mothman wasn't from Parkersburg. If you Google Mothman,
there
it
you
just comes
go.
right up in the Wikipedia. It's like not hard.
Okay, I can't even find this book in Google or Goodreads, and I know I found it in Goodreads before.
because it's horrible.
I was gonna say it's probably
They
so
just
bad
removed
that
it.
they're
They're
like,
embarrassed.
no.
I am going to do The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I wanted to love that book so much. I gave it 2 stars. I also hand out stars like it's nobody's business. I gave it 2 stars. I hated every character so much. None of them were redeemable. I felt like none of them grew at all in the book, which is forever long. I don't know. I hated it. I decided not to pick up the rest of the series, and I was told to told to watch the series on Netflix. And I actually really loved it.
I read the book as well. Well, I didn't actually finish this book. I hated it so much. So I agree with you 100%. What a miserable book. The first third of
It really is.
It's sold to you as like Harry Potter for adults. No, it isn't. It isn't. The Harry Potter stuff happens in the first third of the book, right? Maybe first half, where they're at school, and then they graduate, and then there's miserable, awful wastes of human space for the rest of the time. But yes, so the Magicians TV series is much better because you don't have to
really
deal
is.
with all of the inner thoughts and awfulness of the characters.
And I feel like they do a lot of actual, I feel like they translate a lot better on actual people than it does in the book. Like, I could tell they were actually written how they should have been in the book, but as actual people acting them out, it was so much easier to translate that and understand, and the character growth was amazing for me over all of the seasons. So I don't know, yeah. If you're wanting to do that book, no, just go watch the show.
Agreed,
absolutely.
100%. Yeah, the universe is a really cool idea, and
It really is.
all that stuff, but no, the books were miserable.
All right, I think that's going to be it for us. So thank you for listening to The Reading Room Ruffians. And remember, only the best libraries have librarians who don't shush you.